Hey, She Ace That listeners, find us on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Every subscribe, like, and follow goes a long way, and I can't thank you all enough for your support. And with that, let's get into today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to She Ace That. It's your host Alexandra, and it's freezing here in Michigan right now. If you're in the Midwest, I feel for you, but I feel like we're also used to it and accept it. We've had a ton of snow this year, more than normal, but yeah, I am really missing the sun and missing some warm weather. This week was MLK Day. Shout out Dr. King. I took my son over to my mom's and we hung out for part of the day. This is super random. My mom and stepdad have been together for a little over 24, 25 years, which is wild to even say. Like, it's scary because they were together obviously after me being here. And my son, when we go over there, loves looking at my wedding book and like pointing out everybody in our family that he knows, pointing out mama and dada and his grandparents. And it's really fun just to like see him so excited. And I was like, where's your guys' wedding book? And so she pulled it out and it was just so fun to look through. If your parents are together or your parents are remarried, just to pull out those old memories and see snapshots of a completely different time in life. Looking through those pictures just feels out of body for me. I think I was, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 when they got married. So I was younger, but obviously still remember most of it possibly, but not everything. And looking through old pictures, just like me as a kid, and that different time in life in general. 20 years can go by and life is so different and life is so fast. And you look back at these moments and these pictures. There was this part of me that wanted to go back to that moment just for a few minutes, just to relive it. And if I didn't see those pictures, I wouldn't have, maybe it's just a me thing, but like I wouldn't have had as good of a memory and feeling tied to that time in my life. And I think that goes for our whole lives. Like, a lot of people, are saying like, get off your phone during something and you don't need to take pictures, like enjoy the moment in the present. And there is such a beauty to that. I think phones can be super distracting and there is a time and a place. But for me, like, love looking back on old pictures because it reminds me of things that I forgot about or didn't think about. And there is research on this. Psychologists call it the picture superiority effect. And basically our brains remember images better than words because when we see a photo, we're storing it 2 ways, as the image itself and as the verbal description of what's in it. So you're encoding it deeper. And studies have shown that looking at personal photos can actually reactivate memories, help you recall details you'd otherwise forget, and even strengthen those memories over time. Photos aren't replicating your memory, they're actually unlocking it. And I felt like that's what happened to me when I was going through my parents' wedding book. It just brings these emotions and it brings back that moment specifically. I am team take the photos. My great grandma passed from Alzheimer's, and that's like dementia. Alzheimer's really hits home for me. Really, all we have again is now, but also our memories. If you haven't gone through your old pictures in a while, you haven't created a photo album in a while, do it, because for me, it's relieving. Again, love being present. Don't need to be on my phone documenting everything. I think some of the best times, especially, have been when I'm off my phone. But for those amazing times, I do really appreciate looking back, having memories associated to it. So anyway, it's almost February, which is absolutely crazy to me. If you're newer here, we normally start the podcast with the items that previous guests send me that mean something to them or connect to our conversation one way or another. And getting the best stuff to start laying out and playing with, which I'm excited for. Calling all Pitt fans, I have an addition to the She Ace That collection wall for all of you this week, so you are represented. This week's edition is from one of my good friends, Amanda Lynch. Amanda was on earlier last season. We talked about libero lessons, coaching, and superstitions, and just being real about politics and favoritism that exists in volleyball. We talked about so much good stuff, so definitely go back to season 1 and check that episode out. But here it is. She played on the club team at Pitt Greensburg. Here we go. So this was her warm-up from being on the club team at Pitt. And I think it's really cool, actually, to have, because I don't have anything Pitt related. She's making sure subconsciously that I'm starting to become a bigger Pitt fan, which I'm totally on board to support. So we met through our day-to-day jobs and quickly realized how much we had in common, and how much we've had to prove ourselves in sports, and both transitioning to coaching and both dealing with similar parent drama and coaching drama. And again, so grateful to have Amanda as part of She Ace That. It means the world to me. So what else? I have got something coming up in February, which I'm really excited about. and I'm going to be at some tournaments here in Michigan. I just wanted to find a way to connect with more of you in person and share more about Chase That and resources. Really grateful. Shout out Dynamite Volleyball Club. They are amazing to work with here in Michigan and really looking forward to the partnership that we are going to be able to expand there. So more to come. And that goes into just gearing up for apparel. I've been working on getting more apparel, better apparel, starting a local business near me. Today's guest, I'm so excited for this episode. There's something about being a setter that I think gets overlooked, and we do have a few setters coming on the podcast the next couple months, which I'm really excited for, just the various outlooks on that position. But being a good setter isn't just about your hands or the exact positioning of the ball. It's about relationships and building connectivity and trust and giving grace to each other on the court. They're called the quarterback of volleyball for a reason. And a setter has to know their hitters, every single one, like really know them. Every hitter is so different. And that is why I commend setters so much, is because they're constantly adapting to everybody else. They're constantly adapting to passes. They're constantly adapting to their hitters. So when you switch teams, you're starting from scratch, right? And you have to build that trust. You have to get back to the basics and build that chemistry again. And then once you have it, it is the best feeling in the world. Like when you are just on the same wavelength, you can trust the hitter and the hitter trusts you. That telepathic communication comes with time, but it just takes trust. It takes reps. And again, once you get it, it's like the best feeling in the world. That's why what Leah Wilton-LaBoy has done is actually kind of incredible when you think about it. She's a senior setter, just finished her season at University of Utah. But Utah is her third college, her second transfer that she went through. She started at Utah State, transferred to Oklahoma, and then transferred again to Utah for her senior year. And that's 3 programs, 3 different coaching staffs. She hit over 2,000 career assists, which is incredible as well. She had to earn trust, learn tendencies, and build connections from scratch, and then do it again. Her whole family has been in the sports world in Utah, which I think is really awesome. And when making decisions like that, you are taking into consideration all factors, right? Like your family being alumni at specific schools, what is best for you in relation to that. And so I really just give her credit for constantly looking at what was best for her in the moments. And it's a lot easier said than done when you are going through a transfer process. Like there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of conversations to be had, and it's nerve-wracking. And from anybody I've talked to, is like the transfer portal is not the most ideal place to be. We talk about what it's like to leave something familiar, how she rebuilt her confidence after each move, and really what it actually means to be a setter when you're constantly proving yourself to new teammates. It's not a textbook conversation about the position. It's the stuff that we don't usually talk about. What happens when your path doesn't go the way that you planned and you have to figure it out anyway? This is my conversation with the great Leah Wilton-LaBoy. Leah, welcome to She Aced That.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling heading into the end of your senior year?
Honestly, I don't know if it's like kind of settled in yet that I'm done. After we lost first round, I've gotten so many questions about like, how do you feel? Are you okay? I'm like, I feel completely the same. And I don't think I'll really like feel the reality of what's set in until next semester when I'm just a regular student. But honestly, the past like couple weeks has been pretty nice. Like I've just been able to like feel a lot of gratitude for where I ended up and just like have like a lot of fun just reflecting on my last, couple seasons.
I totally get that. It's weird when things end and you don't know what's next, but there's always something good in the future coming too. Can you take us back to when you started volleyball and how it found you?
So I started playing competitive volleyball when I was 8. Volleyball kind of was something that's always been a part of my life even before I started playing. My mom's side of the family is just a huge volleyball family. My grandpa was a well-known veteran collegiate coach on both the men's and women's side. So he helped coach out at the University of Hawaii for their men's program, for their women's program, and their men's program. And he's been to like every school all over creation, which we like to joke about all the time, but he coached at BYU, he coached at UCSB, Cal Poly, and he's been a volunteer assistant the last couple years. And so I had the privilege of playing with him my first 2 years at Utah State. But other than him, my aunt and uncle were both All-Americans at the University of Hawaii. My cousin played volleyball at the University of Hawaii and BYU. My mom played her first year of college at Utah State. So I've had just a lot of volleyball in my family since I was born, and I like to joke with my mom that she kinda, like, forcefully nudged me into volleyball, but it was for a good reason, and I ended up loving it.
It's amazing to have mentors in the sport already, especially at a collegiate level. I'm sure
Yeah,
everybody was so helpful for you to navigate that and have sounding boards. My mom played softball. She obviously knew volleyball, but wasn't really fully immersed in that realm, which was,
for
I feel like,
sure.
a pro and a con. So she wasn't too involved, but at the same time, wasn't always aware of like everything that the
Yeah.
volleyball world has to offer. So then when you started playing and going into, your high school years, you also went to like states. Can you take us back to that time and how you navigated the high school years and what was that like winning culture like?
I loved my high school volleyball experience, though I will admit it's a private school, and I knew I would get the best, like, athletic experience at that school, also just a really good academic foundation for college. We kind of came from the same club. My head coach was also my club coach for a couple years. We had such a nice foundation of what we should expect volleyball-wise with coaching, just, like, connection and the experience that you can't have with someone that you already, like, are comfortable with playing next to or being coached by, and I had the privilege of being one of the 4 freshmen on varsity. My freshman year, I didn't play as much. We had a senior setter who was, very good at running the offense, but I waited patiently for my time, and then sophomore year, we ended up making a pretty good run in the state. Also, that was just a really cool experience as an underclassman, like, my first year really playing, getting
Mhm.
that as my first, like, experience was something that I took into the rest of my high school career too, but sadly, COVID was like, the height of COVID was during my junior and senior year, so we really didn't get, like, a full experience my last couple years, but we still won. We were still a winning team, and it was just fun to, like, cultivate that culture within my high school, and it's something that, like, even when I come back I'm home right now, and even when I come back home, like, it's just such a cool experience to, like, be recognized by people or just, like, remembering, like, the great times that we had, like, with me and my best friends.
That's amazing. It's hit or miss for people how much they love their high school culture. I felt the same. I really look back fondly on my high school years, but I can see in some situations why people have a negative correlation to it. And it's really amazing to have that winning culture and that close knit community of the same
Mhm.
team every year. I give you a lot of credit though for the COVID side of it because some people started either high school or college with COVID
Mhm.
or ended it that way. At least for me, my senior year in college was ended with
Mhm.
COVID. And so it's just like that bittersweet ending where you weren't really expecting it to be that impactful.
Yeah.
But obviously, you were still able to fortunately move on from the high school years into college years. I'm just so grateful you still were able to continue the sport you love and it didn't fully take that away from you during that time. And
Thank you.
with like the winning culture that you were experiencing, how did that help prepare you for college volleyball?
I would say it helped me just realize, what a team can do with the right, like,
Hmm.
components to it. Like, I knew what it took to win and playing at a pretty high level in high school and club, and being able to, like, take that experience and see how I could translate it into college ball was the most, like, life-changing experience because I knew coming into college, like, this was a completely different, like, ball game. I've I have, like, the resources in my family to really, like, to, like, show me what, like, I'm going to have to expect, but, like, I'm getting recruited to be on this team to bring the experience that I have from club and high school. It might not be the same, but I think just the way that the culture of my club team and my high school team gave me enough confidence just as an athlete to step into a leadership role or more like to step into a bigger role than I thought I was going to be put in my freshman and sophomore year. And like no one likes to lose and I most certainly hate losing,
Hmm.
but like I was able to like bring that competitive fire that I had those years of winning in club and high school and bring it into college.
When you were starting to look at colleges, and obviously you started at Utah State, how was your recruiting process? How did you navigate that in your high school years?
I recruiting was a little bit hard because of the whole 5th year change for my class because
Yeah.
and also the change with the June 15th rule. Because I was able to talk to
Hmm.
colleges, like, early in my club career, and then that got cut off because of the June 15th rule, so all the schools I was talking to radio silence, and then COVID hit, and then everyone got a 5th year. So by the time the June 15 rule was put in place and I started talking to the coaches that I was talking to before, they were like, "We'd love for you to be on the team, but we're giving our 5th years like we're giving the 5th year to our girls." And like that's
Yeah.
completely understandable. So it was a lot of back and forth throughout like once June 15th hit of just like talking to schools, hearing their like what their situation was and having to be
Mhm.
like pretty flexible with it because, like, that's out of my control as an athlete, but my recruiting process was pretty much my parents made it a very, the parents made sure that I was the one really, taking action with my recruiting
Mhm.
process. I didn't have a recruiting coordinator. I did pretty much everything, like, on my own account, so I had a huge, like, Excel spreadsheet of just any school and, like, organized by conference with the coaches' contacts, like, I wanted to cast my net out wide because I knew, like, I wasn't going to just, like, focus on one conference or one area, like, I knew
Mhm.
I would be totally open to leaving California too, and so it was a lot of back and forth with coaches and then just, a lot of wow, this is so long ago, I'm trying to remember. And then with COVID too, like, I couldn't go on many visits. I was doing Zoom call visits with schools, and long story short, I ended up getting recruited by Utah State, and they were one of my top schools for a while just because I knew, like, my grandpa was already there as a volunteer, and I knew that would be a plus, like, I would finally be able to be in, like, a real gym setting with my grandpa other than our, like, one-on-one trainings that I grew up having with him. And I knew that Rob was going to have the same, like, mindset with coaching that my grandpa has. They coached with each other at BYU, so I knew I was gonna be getting the best volleyball coaching while I was there, and it would be nice to have a, family nearby, but yeah, and then I ended up committing. I didn't even go on a visit, couldn't really go on a visit until after I
Yeah.
committed because of high school season, and but I knew even, like, going on my visit later that I made the correct choice.
I commend you too. I didn't realize how impactful COVID was for recruiting and how it did change the dynamics of athletes they were talking to earlier on. And then the 5th year dynamic, it's a lot to navigate. It's a stressful process. I'm glad it really worked out for you. And you had some support going through that with Utah State and deciding to go there. Your freshman year obviously was incredible. You led with an incredible amount of assists. Can you take me back to that season? And are there any things that stick out for you that really made you feel like, okay, this was the right choice for me at that time, and how it was having your grandfather on the sideline there too with you?
My fresh like, I tell everyone, like, my first 2 years of college, like, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I truly
Yeah.
loved my time at Utah State, and my freshman year specifically, I knew, like, coming into this I knew the role that I had to fill once I got onto campus, and I just wanted to hit the ground running because of how eager I was to be competing at this, level of sport now. It's been my dream since I was a little girl,
Yeah.
and what was just so, like, special about that year was just the way that we never stopped competing with each other. I loved both my teams at Utah State. It was Rob did a great job recruiting a bunch of great girls that are now, like, my forever best friends to this day. Had all the right pieces those first 2 years to really do something special, and I was just grateful that I was one of the few, like, new additions that really stepped into the lineup, and I knew, like, I had big shoes to fill, but I wanted to make sure that I was filling them, but also still staying true to myself and as a competitor, and, I was just grateful and happy to be playing and, like, competing with these girls, and I think we finished, like, 4th in the conference, and we knew, like, Rob's a very smart volleyball coach, like, he knew, like, RPI, we needed, like, a lot more to get into the tournament, and that's why he schedules preseason really well so that we play those good teams early to help us at the end. But going into the conference tournament, we were like, why can't we win this? Like
Hmm.
we we didn't finish at the top in regular season, but this is what this whole tournament is about. And we ended up winning the entire thing outright. It was the most amazing experience. I just was so grateful to be able to experience that with that group of girls because it was just such a special team. Circling back to my grandpa, it was so nice just to have him like around all the time. And he's a very like soft-spoken person. He won't really like step out. He's not the kind of coach that just steps out and like wants to tell you how he feels. He will always he's the kind of coach that will wait until you ask, or if
Uh,
there's something like just a very like the way he approaches things, there's just something that like I love in a coach. And he made sure like he kept his boundaries. He wasn't trying to be like just Leah's grandpa in that case. But it was just so nice my 2 years there to see like what I grew up with and the person that I've looked up to for so long be able to interact with my closest friends too. Like I got to share that part of my life with people that I really care about and have that any other way.
that is so special. Did you ever get pushback on you being related to him? Obviously, you deserved your position no matter what, but in high school especially, people will
Mhm.
take it and run with it. Was that an impact for you?
No, honestly, like, everyone just loved him so much, and,
Oh,
the position that he's in too, like, he wasn't
yeah.
traveling as much. He hates going
Yeah.
on planes after traveling for 30 years, like, back and forth from an island, but he he'd come to local stuff, he'd drive sometimes. Him and my grandma would
Oh,
drive to, like they drove to Lincoln my sophomore year, like, from Utah just to come, but, like, just in the role that he had, he wasn't in, like, a huge decision-making role. He was just kind of
yeah.
he'd always been Rob's mentor, like, earlier in Rob's career, so he was just
Mhm.
kind of that mentor piece for him, but also just for all the girls. But yeah.
That's super special. I love that so much, and thanks for sharing that with us. You had those awesome 2 years at Utah State and then transferred, and I'm sure there's a lot of, decisions that and factors that go into that. Kind of what triggered you to decide that and look into
Mhm.
the transfer portal?
The main reason was just about the offense that we were running at Utah
Mhm.
State. I knew coming into my freshman year that the 6-2 was gonna be, like, the best solution to or the best offense to run with the people we had in mind.
Yeah.
And same thing with my sophomore year, like, I had conversations my freshman year about it, and just personnel-wise, like, I came to understand that pretty quickly, and I was
Uh-huh.
completely fine with just competing and also just, like, we were part of a winning team, and I wanted to still be a part of that team with these girls. But at the halfway point of my career, I had to take a step back after we got back from first round and really think about, "Okay, what do I want to get out of my next 2 years? And what was the realistic probability of playing to run 5 next season?" So,
Mm.
going into my exit meeting, that was basically I had an honest conversation with Bob and the staff about it and what they thought they would do. Um, and obviously, like, nothing ever guaranteed, but I just wanted to, like, their brains about that. I really didn't know what this team is going to look like come spring
Mhm.
in the next fall. So I just knew, like, at that point of my career, like, if I really wanted to achieve what I've always wanted to achieve, I should see if there's any, like, other opportunities somewhere else to compete and try to get that, 5 spot.
That absolutely makes sense. And everybody is looking for different things in their careers too. And I've seen players transfer a few times. I've seen players stay. Everybody has their own reasonings and it makes sense for each individual person. I don't think there's like a
Mhm.
one size fits all experience. And if anything,
Exactly.
at this time in our life is like the time to try new things. So if you have those
Mhm.
opportunities to see if you can excel or expand both as an athlete, but also as a person, it definitely makes sense. And was your grandpa and family supportive of that decision at that time, given that you were moving on from a family tradition
Yeah.
area?
Yeah, he was the support out of everyone. He just like, he was that way too when I was getting recruited in the first place. He like, "Here in Logan, but this is your experience, and I'm gonna support you wherever you go. Like, don't, sway your opinion just because I'm here," kind of thing, and so it was the same idea when I was leaving too. He he was even considering, like he stepped down for, like, a semester or 2, ended up coming back to help out with Utah State because he can't not be in a gym,
Yeah.
but, like, I knew it was a good time for me to leave, and my family was a really huge part of my support system and just keeping me afloat during the transfer portal because that's not easy at all.
I have heard that often. And that was gonna be my next question for you was like, do you have any advice for girls who are looking into entering the transfer portal?
Uh, I mean, once you're in it, I would just say cast your net out wide. You never know what you're gonna get, and just really be honest with these coaches because if you're not honest from the get, like doing yourself a disservice, but you're also doing them a disservice too. Like, be honest with why you're left, obviously be respectful about it if it's a messy exit, but I would just say, like, being honest is a huge part of and it's I think it's hard too as, like, female in sports sometimes to really, like, advocate for what you want, so always by it.
No, that's great advice. And like, given your time in Oklahoma, so how was your experience there in the SEC volleyball side of the world?
It was awesome. I was so excited the fact that I got to be a part of their inaugural year in the SEC. It was just a really cool experience in general. All sports, across all sports, going to football games, being able to, like, see the kind of, like, the level of competitiveness that this conference brings was really cool. Just experience in general, playing Texas, beating Texas, being able to, like, see how, like, coming from a major how much more this sport has to offer with these more competitive conferences. It's just really eye-opening for me, but
As a setter and a leader on the court, do you feel when you are in a 5-1 you thrive, or is it just depending on the team dynamic?
standpoint, it definitely has, like, more pros than cons. I think volleyball is such a flow-oriented sport where,
Mm,
like, everything is dictated with how you guys are just, like, connection-wise and the way that you guys are interacting with each other, and,
mhm.
because it's, like, it's constant, you keep going. It's not like you have all these breaks and stops to, refresh your momentum and that kind of stuff. That's what the 5-1 really has to offer is just a constant flow of the same kind of, like, leadership and just person on the court too. And just from, like, a volleyball standpoint, like, not no setter is the same. Like,
Yeah.
as a hitter, you have to, like, know, like, not every setter is gonna set the same ball the same way, and, like, that's another way that can, like, disrupt that kind of flow. So I would say from just, like, a team connection and leadership standpoint, it definitely has its pros, and obviously, like, from a volleyball standpoint too, like, you get the same setter on the entire time, um, and you get, like, the opportunity to if you have a slide hitter for the middle to go behind, like, when in a two-hitter phase, but, there are a lot of pros to having a 6-2 too, and I learned that pretty quickly at my time at Utah State, because if we don't have a really good slide hitter, or, like,
Yeah.
we wanna keep as many hitters as we can in the front row if there's no back row attack, like, there are a lot of pros to a 6-2 too, and I think me and the other half of the 6-2 via my years there, like, we were able to, like, figure out, like, what would be the best for this team and, like, keeping, like, the momentum going, like, when we get subbed in and out, like, I think we did a really good job, like, working together with that kind of stuff, and that was a really cool and eye-opening experience for me because 'cause I've never done that before, but I think there's pros and cons, but I definitely see a lot more pros in a 5-1.
When you're playing at that college level, you do want more hitting options, but at the same time,
Mhm,
having one consistent setter to fall back on that everybody's able to continuously practice hitting with and kind of align with.
mhm.
What I commend you the most about as a setter, like I started as a setter in my volleyball career, transitioned to a hitter, so I felt like I had that initial appreciation of setters. You guys are touching the ball the most. That is so valuable when you find those connections with others and are able to find that balance between all the different hitting expectations.
Thank you, I really appreciate that. That means a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, setters need much more of the glory, that's for sure.
We need love too.
And honestly, that was the thing, like, back in my day, I feel like the first person I would celebrate with would be my setter just because, like, when you get that connection, it's the best feeling
Mhm.
in the world as a hitter.
Out with, like, a lot of my, like, hitters, like, they're
Yeah,
always been so just, like, appreciative of what I did in order for them to get that kill, like, my
yep,
favorite thing to watch back is just, like, being able to, like, watch back my whatever weird celebration I do, but it always,
mhm.
like, is centered around, like, us, like, celebrating each other, and I think that's, like, the most just, like, rewarding part of this sport, and that I'm gonna miss for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, it is. It's like a feeling that's kind of indescribable when you have those set connections, and then,
Mhm.
once you transfer, you're getting used to a whole new team, and it's just a lot
Yeah.
going on, but then again, once you get back to that dynamic and feeling that way, it's like, it's just so rewarding, so I give
Mhm.
you a lot of credit through these transfers on adjustments too.
Thank you.
And so when you transferred to Utah, what was that decision like for you, an adjustment, and obviously the Utah versus Utah State dynamics as well. So how did that come about and how was your process for that next transfer?
Yeah, my journey to Utah is a pretty funny story, but from the beginning, like, I knew at the end of my season at Oklahoma, like, I just knew, like, I was not going to be happy there, just volleyball aside, like, I just knew, like, that was just not the place for me, and everyone's
Mhm.
experience is different, and it was such a privilege to be a part of, a great team with, and a great conference, but, like, I knew, like, I wouldn't have been able to last another year there, and going into the portal again is not anything I wish upon anybody, but it happens, and once again, like, you just kinda have to, like, figure out what's best for you, and I knew at that point, like, the best thing for me to do is leave, and going into the portal, I was really just, like, hoping for anything at that point because I knew, like, I didn't play as much at OU. I played in the preseason and then just kinda, like, was a serving sub throughout the rest of the season, and, like, I didn't have much film to really go by, or at least recent film, and
Mhm.
so I just really wanted to find a school that knew me as just a competitor and a player because I think what sets me apart from a lot of people, and then also just somewhere where I could compete and just be a part of a really good culture. Like, at that point, I really didn't care about conference, I didn't care about how much that team was winning because I knew, like, realistically, those schools probably wouldn't be looking my direction based on the year I had before. So, going into the portal, I was talking to a couple of, like, schools from the Mountain West, like, smaller conferences, WCC, and I was really considering, like, potentially coming home too. That would have been a good option, but the U reached out to me, and what was funny about that was that they reached out to me the first time I was in the portal, and I I did turn them down. I had a visit scheduled and everything, and then but in the back of my head, I was like, "Okay, like, I'm going to keep all my options open, but I don't know if staying in Utah would be the best bet for me," and I had, like, other SEC schools reaching out, so I was like, "Maybe this is where I need to be," but they reached out to me a second time I was in the portal, and when I saw that email, I thought to myself, I was like, "Wow, like, this is a sign," because not many schools do that. Not many schools are going to reach out to a kid that turned them down the first time,
Yeah.
especially a kid that didn't get much playing time the last season, and, like, that, like, in and of itself was just something that I needed at that point, like, that action that they took, even just reaching out to me, brought me the confidence that I lacked for such a long time, because I did lose my confidence at, OU, and, going back on the phone with Will, he, like, picked up the phone, he was like, "Do we need to do introductions or, like, we already know each other?"
Yeah.
And, also, like, Will's a family friend from Hawaii. We, like, know like, our family knows each other really well. I knew I'd be getting good coaching from him as a setter, but also, like, what Beth and Will and Alyssa all emphasized to me when I came on my visit was that, yes, obviously, like, you didn't have the last season that you wanted, but we know you as a person and we know you as a player because they always like to bring up my sophomore year, we played Utah at Utah State and we swept them. It was a beating, I'm going to be honest, and they always bring that up because it haunts them, and they were like, "That game is all we needed to know is that you're good, and we would love
Yeah.
to have you on this team." And, that's really what I wanted in the end was a coaching staff that just knew me and just wanted me to be there because of the way I compete, the way I bring myself every day for practice and work hard, and I went on my visit, and it was great. I didn't realize how much I missed Utah until I came back. My time at Utah State really made me fond of just the state of Utah in general, and, like, I honestly, like, I love living there, and, like, I commend that to my time at Utah State, but I knew, like, coming into Salt Lake and going onto campus, I was like, "Okay, like, this feels like home." So then that was basically it.
That's amazing. No, it's meant to be. Everything happens for a reason. I'm glad they reached back out to you too. And I think it's a great connection point to already have back to that area and probably comfortable to make that decision. You brought up the confidence standpoint of things when going through these
Yeah.
processes. Can you give your insight of maybe why you were struggling with confidence at that time? And especially from a setter perspective, how to maybe continue to really rely back on that internal confidence, still needing to lead
Yeah.
the whole court.
Yeah, I would say, like, I'm a, like, pretty, like, just confident person when I step on the court. I think,
Mhm.
just coming from where I came from, like, I always knew, like, I always played with a chip on my shoulder. I'm undersized, like, that had always been something that, like, I kept close to my heart because, like, that's something that's become more of like a strength to me than like what people can perceive as a weakness. But coming into my time at Oklahoma, I mean, obviously, like I think the biggest like catalyst to someone's confidence, especially in sports, is your playing time. And as much as I was
Mhm.
really trying not to have that be at the forefront of my head, because um that's not like something that you want to think about all the time because it can just consume you. Realistically, that is something that really took a toll on my confidence. It's like, okay, if like, how can I be confident in my abilities if like my coaches aren't confident in putting me in? And
Mhm.
like, there's a lot more that comes with that, obviously, but that was something that I had to really like zoom out, take a second, like not have this consume me the entire season because that's not something that like I thought would be productive and helpful for me. But like I think I'm proud of the way that I carried myself throughout my time at Oklahoma because I took my, like, lack of playing as an opportunity to become a better team player. In my like, me and our bench, like, we had the best time, like, we would try to be as supportive as we can and still push each other in practice. Like, even though, like, we had a set lineup, like, people were still competing and still, like, like, working hard to, play against each other and try to beat each other out, and it definitely just, like, took a toll with how I just saw myself because I hadn't not played since my freshman year of high school. And I had always been like someone that was expected to be a starter. And like that's honestly like it's not like the most like I don't know how else to put it. Like it's embarrassing to like go from
Yeah.
someone who started all the time to not. And I just had to figure out a way to like reframe my mindset. And I think it just brought me a lot of great skills and experience that I could bring into being at Utah too. But just as a setter too, like confidence wise, like I feel like you always have to remember, like with setting, it's a two-way street too. It's your job to locate the ball to where it needs to go, but you don't have to locate it to a perfect spot. I think that's always how I was kind of trained and conditioned to
Mhm.
thinking. And then I was always at fault when really like I learned in college, like it's a two-way street. Like I have to set the ball to like a window, not this like
Mhm.
one tiny spot. Like if there's a window that I have to set to
Yeah.
give the hitters a good look into hitting the ball correctly. I think that just comes with like realizing like each set is not like the end of the world. Like
Yeah.
what's what the beauty about volleyball is you get the whole 'nother play to do it better and to better the
Mhm.
ball, and once I kinda figured that out in college, like, it made not locating perfectly a lot easier because it was like, "Okay, like, I can get you the next point, but, like, it's also your job as a hitter to, terminate the ball even with what you
Mhm.
get," and I think that's really cool to have that kind of relationship with a hitter because it's showing how much faith, like, you as a setter has in a hitter because it's like, I know that wasn't the best set, but I know you're good enough to fix it, you know? And that's like the beauty of volleyball in the case is like you're always having an opportunity to better the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. You're in control of a lot of the game. Once you get over that hump of that internal confidence, and I do think it's a growth opportunity for sure for everybody to understand like the playing time dynamics, even though it
Mhm,
sucks and it is like such a hit mentally. Once you
mhm,
are able to work through that, I think it just builds your mental strength, but also wanting to, continue to work hard and come back and get that playing time. It's
mhm,
obviously hard at those levels when you have so many great athletes part of these programs, but I just really commend you for working through that type of situation because it isn't easy to do. And it's hard also to go up to coaches and ask about playing time, but it's also good to be able to have those open conversations. And when you get that support and when you are able to maybe try to understand the situation that you're experiencing, it still impacts us personally because we expect the best from ourselves as athletes. That's why we're
yeah,
playing these sports. That's why we chose volleyball, especially to perform and to do our best and always to have that to fall back on. We got to look inward and think, okay, how do we get through this for ourselves and
mhm,
not be tearing everybody else down while going through it.
exactly.
I really appreciate you sharing that. People have those struggles all of the time. It's just not always
Mhm,
talked about. We're not understanding the struggles that even professional athletes go through, which they still
yeah,
handle similar situations as that, even the best of the best. And it just happens.
mhm,
Earlier, you were talking about the tournament that you guys were
mhm,
going through in the first round, and you guys were playing Northern Iowa, right? That first round?
yeah,
I've given updates on the NCAA volleyball tournament
Mhm.
and backgrounds of what's been going on, but can you give us insights on A, how you make the tournament, and then B, like, how they match it up and just background for the people that are tuning in?
Yeah, for sure. So you can make the tournament in 2 different ways. It's either an automatic qualifying bid or an open at-large bid. So I think it's what, 32? 32
I think
automatically?
so. Yeah,
'Cause there's
yeah.
64 teams that make it. The first half are automatic bids, so that's either from depending on the conference, it's either from winning your conference outright or winning the
Mhm.
conference tournament. Some conferences have just a regular season and then go straight into the tournament, or some other conferences, like Utah State and now Oklahoma, the SEC has a conference tournament now. That's how you can get an automatic bid into the tournament, and this also gives the opportunity for smaller schools to get that chance to go into the tournament, even if their RPI isn't the highest or they're not the most competitive in the most competitive conference. And then the next 32 are based on RPI. I have totally no recollection of what that stands for. You do? Something points?
Rating percentage index.
Reading percentage index. What that basically means in simple terms is that
Yeah.
throughout the season, the NCAA will track your RPI standing, and that standing is determined based on your wins,
Mhm.
your losses wins, or like the teams that you're playing, if you beat them or not, their wins and losses also are taken into account with your RPI. So most coaches will schedule like a really hard preseason with really competitive teams to help you in the end for postseason because like this year we played Texas A&M and Nebraska, and we took a set off Nebraska. Like that, even though we lost, we that game itself is one of
Yeah.
the main reasons why we got in the tournament in the first place. Same thing with playing Texas A&M and losing, and playing teams like Cal Poly. We played Cal Poly too. Like even just
Mhm.
playing teams that are going to have a far run in their own conference tournament or conference is going to benefit you in the end. And then obviously like your wins and losses in conference too taken effect in that too. But this year we rejected top 25 at the beginning, and then just by the way that season was going, we had so many injuries, so many just like things coming out of left field where we were like, "Shoot, like, we're not, like, playing at the best that we totally can play at," and that was a really hard, like, hill to go over throughout, like, the
Yeah.
beginning of, like, preseason and into regular season, but we were on a pretty significant losing streak at one point, and we were like there was a point, like, where all of us across the board, coaches too, were like, I don't think we're gonna make it into the tournament at this point. Like we just keep losing. Granted, the Big 12 is a great conference. We had the most teams go into the tournament this year. But
Mhm.
but by the time end of October came, or like mid-October, we ended up starting to win games and we started to figure it out with the pieces that we had, and we ended up winning just enough to even be considered because you have to be in order to even be considered for an at-large bid, you need to have a winning record. And so a
Wow.
winning record just means 1 game over your losses. So, like,
Yeah.
we had 1 more win than we did losses
Oh
by
my
the our
gosh.
last game.
I didn't realize that dynamic. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, so our last game was in Lubbock of all places, and, like, regular season game, we swept Tech, and then we come in the locker room, and we're all just kind of like, "Are we done? Do we know if we're done?" And the coaches were so, like, weirdly calm about it, like, I think they knew, like, deep down, like, we were going to make it into the tournament because they were like, "This isn't our last game, like, we're gonna go back home, take a day off, watch a selection show, and then we're gonna practice and travel to wherever we need to travel." And that selection show, I've been a privilege of being in the tournament every year I've played in. That selection show had me stressed. I've never been that stressed because I knew that we were gonna make it my first 2 years at Utah State. Oklahoma was a coin toss, but we did pretty well, beat a, like, good enough amount of teams where we could be considered. And then this year, I had literally no idea if we were gonna make it or not. And, of course, they had us in the final quadrant too, so that was really fun to watch everyone get picked except for us. But, yeah, it was like the most, like, relieving, like, surreal experience because at that point we knew, like, "Okay, like,
You're like, "We did it."
we did it. We did it. We did it. I don't know how, but we did it."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
No, that's crazy. It's very nerve-wracking, like, and it's exciting, but it is crazy how, your whole season can be like, okay, waiting up to this point, and then you
yeah.
get that feeling of validation, and you're like, "Oh, thank gosh." Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Preparing for the tournament in general, do you guys do anything different, or do you constantly fall back into just your normal ways of practicing and preparing for those higher intense
Mm.
environments?
Honestly, it was pretty, like, similar to what we were doing before just because
Mhm.
towards the end of season, when we actually, like, started winning and, like, doing well, our coaches were like, "We're not changing a single thing, this is what we're gonna go with." Like, clearly practices are working and, like, what we're doing in practice is translating to our games, so, like, obviously, there were, like, a little bit of, like a couple of, like, different focuses to have based on
Mhm.
who we were playing, and, like, based on our scout, so but, like, majority of, like, practices and, like, preparations stayed pretty much the same, like, especially, like, in the height of season, we're not lifting as much, like, we're trying to keep everyone, like, healthy at the same time, so there wasn't that much of a difference.
I think that's how it has to be, right? If you
Mm.
change things up before, then it just adds to the, I don't know, like the nerves maybe, or just
Yeah,
adjustments. We can adjust when we play specific teams, but your
exactly.
actual normal team dynamic, I feel like, has to stay consistent through that. And then you did say, and I did know this, you guys took a set off Nebraska. So can you say like anything about playing that team and especially their dynamics, but also being able to take a set off them? Because that is a huge win, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't realize how big it was until every time I watched a game, like, for the tournament at Nebraska, it always says the last time that Nebraska lost a set was against Utah, September 16th. It says that
That's
in
amazing.
every it was
Yeah.
so funny because anytime we saw that on, like, the TV, like, we're all texting each other like, "Woohoo, we got mentioned, woohoo."
Yeah.
Um, playing that team is something that, like, truly or just playing in that place too is something that's just so like, it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing, and ironically, in my career, I've spent 3 preseasons in Lincoln. So the last 3 years I've been in Lincoln, my time at Oklahoma, we didn't play Nebraska. We played everyone else in their preseason tournament, but I was Nebraska's home opening match at Utah State my sophomore year. That was Harper Murray's first collegiate game. And then this time around, like, I already knew what I was kind of expecting 'cause I've
Mhm.
played in that environment, like, years prior, but I was just so excited, like, traveling and getting to see, like, everyone else experience it for the first time because it was such an
Yeah.
unforgettable experience, like, my first time, and then come game time, we truly were just like, "We might as well just leave it all out while we have it." Like, we're a good team, they're a great team, like, there's what's great about volleyball is, like, you never know what to expect ever. I think the
Mhm.
tournament is, like, living proof of that. And, we just wanted to go out and just play our best volleyball and have fun while doing it, and that's what we did our first set. I didn't that whole, like, first set was kind of a blur too, because 'cause I'd, like, look up at the screen and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're winning." And then by the end of it, I was like, "We're switching sides," and we're like, "Oh my gosh, we won that first set." And I've never seen, like, the crowd that way, like, it was just so, like, such a surreal experience because it's like, that's what no one was expecting that. We weren't expecting that, but like, it's just it comes to show, like, that's the beauty of volleyball. Then
Mhm.
we lost 25-8 the next set, but
Hey,
we
it
we
happens.
still got a set off,
Hey, you
but
just
just
you
playing
guys just had to, like, put them back into their, drive. Like, they
yeah,
were like, "Okay, we're gonna come in here," and you guys were having fun, and that's the way to do it, though, is, like, still have, a positive goal for this and still
yeah,
be able to have fun no matter the opponent you're
yeah.
playing, and I do think most teams win when they are having fun in those upset
Yes.
environments.
That's anytime we upset a team this year, like, we were just truly, like, having the best time. That's, like,
It's
the one
awesome.
thing that I love about this te like, my team at Utah.
Mhm.
We just will always, like, have our fun and never, like, shy down just because it's, like, this is a like, obviously, volleyball is serious. This is a whole, like, business. It's a sport. Like, this is why we're here in the
Yeah.
first place, but we I think we find a good, like, balance between the 2. Our bench, like, had the best time at Nebraska. I was getting, like, texts afterwards, like, we were on, like, national television, and people are, like, texting me about, like, how much fun it looked like you guys were having. I think that's something that, like, I hope, like, no one ever lose sight of, like, while they're playing because
Yeah.
by the end like, by the time, like, this is my last year, I was like, "I just wanna enjoy myself at this point," like, because that's when I know, like, I play my best. Oh,
Everybody needs to hear that because it's so much It's easier said than done. That's what these sports are about, is the fun rivalries, is the upsets. And yes, does it suck to lose? Of course. Nobody wants to lose. But falling back on why you started in the first place and just getting through those harder times is what needs to like be brought back a little bit more these days. On November 7th against TCU, you hit 2,000 career assists. So what did that moment mean for you?
It honestly meant the world to me because at that point, like, I didn't even know if I was gonna make that by the end of my season. That week before we left for practice, Beth brought us all in and, was talking about, like, some career milestones that we were, like, approaching soon. Like, Gibby got 1,000 kills that same game against TCU. Emery had, I think, her 5. It was either her kills or blocks. I think that game too. So, like, she was, like, foreshadowing it, and I thought that it was just gonna be them 2 because I just assumed, like, every program's different, but a good chunk of my assists didn't come from playing at Utah. So I just assumed that it wouldn't be something that they would even consider because it wasn't achieved at this school. So that wasn't even something like a thought in my head throughout the season. But when she was, like, announcing everyone's career milestone, she said that and, like, Leah was approaching 2,000 assists, and I at that point in practice, I was like, "Whoa." First off, like, it means the world to me that they even considered me, and, like, I told Beth that, and she was like, "You ended your time at a U. I don't care where these assists came from, like, your last chunk of assists were achieved here, and you're gonna be on the wall." And just that, like, meant the world to me because of just the adversity that I faced throughout my college career. Like, I didn't even think I was gonna even make that milestone at that point. And, like, I was talking to my grandpa about it. He was like, "Leah, do you understand how impressive that is too? Like, you
Yeah.
played half the time your both years at Utah State. You barely played at Oklahoma, and, like,
Mhm.
you're like, I didn't have, like, the most, like, solid starting spot here at Utah too." And he was like, "The fact that you even were to get this at this point of the season is something you should be really proud of." And, like, just getting that milestone, I was just filled with so much gratitude and just love that, like, I'm a part of this program that they even would consider it, but also just, like, looking back at, like, my time, like, every single one of those assists, like, at that point, like, were just because I loved playing volleyball, and I wasn't
Mhm.
even thinking about this milestone. And then when it came up, it was just like it was just really good timing too for me, just in the height of season too.
It's those nice validation moments that remind you of the reward aspect and how hard you worked even through the adversity stuff. So I'm proud of you for hitting that. It's incredible and definitely a huge accomplishment with everything.
Thank you.
And then so last question for you before I ask what's next for Leah. So what is your philosophy as a setter and how do you build trust with hitters quickly?
I would say my the way that I just, like, interact with the way that I set is so dependent on the relationships that I have with my hitters. I'm a very, like,
Mhm.
relationship-oriented person, and, like, that goes across the board. Like, I knew, like, coming into any team that I was at, like, I had to have a good relationship with my hitters in order for this to work out. We don't need to be best friends. That's not, like, you can't demand that from anybody, but, like, having just, like, that mutual connection and respect and trust is something that I think goes far beyond the court, and it translates really well to how you play. Like, I've had the privilege of setting so many just, like, really talented hitters
Mhm.
throughout my career, and everyone's different, but, like, as long as I stay true to myself and the way that I also just wanna, like, impart my trust and confidence into others is a huge way that my setting philosophy kinda, like, blossomed because, like, setting is always gonna be pretty much the same thing. Like, you're doing the same thing, you're repeating the same motion, but, like, once you, like, get into a really good rhythm and a feeling of, like, how you can set each person, like, that's something that, like, you can't just, like, replicate in a gym
Mhm.
with reps. Like, that just comes from experience and playing with that kind of person, and, like, I just always wanted to make sure that my hitters know that I will always have their back. I think it's easy for, interactions, like, between setters and hitters to become, like, tense and, like, seems like people are pointing the finger at another, but, like, at the end of the day, that's not productive, like, for
Yeah.
anybody, and so, like,
Mhm.
I always just wanted to make sure, like, just as, like, a person and as a competitor, I'm, like, connecting with my hitters before we even, like, step on the court because it just makes, like, a world of difference, and, like, like, I saw it, like, throughout our season at Utah, like, from the beginning, like, I could barely figure out how to set Gibby half the time, and then by the end of
Yeah.
the season, it was like, I just chuck a ball and I knew she was gonna kill it, like, it's a process, and I think you just have to be super patient with it too because, um, it's not gonna be perfect every single time, and, like, I think also, like, personality plays a huge role in it too, so, I don't know, I
Yeah.
just feel like I'm a huge people person and also a huge people pleaser, so I think that's a pretty pretty good
I get
combination.
that, but it also ties to the leader you are, like, you care and you're not just focusing on yourself, you're also trying to make others look great too, and that is what setting is about, so I think that's really helpful to understand, and I really hope the setters listening to this now are gonna take that too into consideration and work through the patience aspect of it, like, nothing happens overnight, and I do think the best things take time sometimes, and that's okay, and it's, at the end of the day, super rewarding. So, what is next for Leah Wilton-LaBoy? And hopefully you get some time off right now and get to enjoy the holidays.
Yeah, currently, I am getting time off, I'm home for
Good.
Christmas break, I'm just trying to keep my body in one place, I was
Mhm.
definitely feeling it by the end of season, but I'm finishing up my last semester of undergrad next spring, graduating in May. I'm really don't have a set path right now. If we're talking about playing, I don't think I will be playing after this, I think I ended my career on a really good note, and
Mhm.
as much as, like, I would love to, like, have those kinds of experiences, I just feel like at this point in my career, like, this is a good time to kinda close that chapter, and, but, like, also volleyball will always be in my life, and I think I'm hoping to pursue a career, whether that's in college volleyball, like, on the staff, or I'm majoring in marketing, so sports marketing, that kind of stuff, so got an internship, hopefully trying to figure out a way to stay in athletics, but
That's
that's all I got
awesome.
right now.
That's awesome. Good for you and congratulations on everything. And I do think it's a beauty when you can end a chapter in a positive way. Like, obviously, it's always bittersweet, but I talk to a lot of athletes in general and they're like, when is my time? Or like, when is enough enough? But volleyball will always be there for you. So, however that looks like and however you want to keep sports in your life, you have that ability to. And like you're saying, you can take that into your career, which I think is amazing. You already have a niche of what you're looking to do with the rest of your life. So, I'm really wishing you the best, and this was amazing, and I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. I really just appreciate just all your kind words, and, like, I think what you're doing is so, like, necessary and just such a great thing.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanna help athletes as much as I can. I think there's a lot of things that we just haven't talked about enough, or at least back when I was playing, I wish I had more insight on.
Yeah,
So that's my goal with this. So I hope if anybody takes anything, even one thing from it that helped them just to get that insight and experience. So I
hopefully.
appreciate all your kind words too. It means a lot.
Yes.
Leah, thank you so much for being here. Your story is one of legacy, adaptability, and resilience. From Utah State to Oklahoma to Utah, you've proven that the journey doesn't always have to be linear to be extremely successful, especially with your 2000 assists. Thank you for sharing your journey with She Eats That today, and thank you everybody for joining in, and we will see you all next Wednesday.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.